On an evening soon afterward, Mr. R. Wilfer, a clerk in the office of Chixie Veneering and Stobbles, approaches his family home and sighs, not for the first time.
Ah, me. What might have been is not what is.
Mr. Wilfer's first name is actually Reginald, but he is shy and unwilling to own to that name, as being too aspiring and self-assertive. Mr. Wilfer is conscious of being just a poor clerk, so poor a clerk that he has never yet attained the modest object of his ambition, which is to wear a complete new suit of clothes, hat and boots included at one time. Tonight, as R. Wilfer approaches his castle, the wife of his bosom greets him by pointing with solemn meaning towards the front door.
You might, R.W., wish to observe a vacancy, or, shall I say, an absence here.
Hello, what happened to the sign for your proposed school for young ladies, my dear?
Yes, the man came himself with a pair of pincers and took it away. He said that as he had no expectation of ever being paid for it, and as he had another order for a young lady's school door plate, it was better for the interests of all parties.
Perhaps it was, my dear. What do you think?
You are master here, R.W. It is as you think, not as I do.
Well, Belle and Lavinia, how do you do tonight, piggy wiggies? And, my dear, as we have lit our first floor so well, and we have now no place in which you could teach pupils, even if pupils.
The milkman said he knew of two young ladies of the highest respectability who were in search of a suitable establishment. Tell your father whether it was last Monday, Bella.
We never heard any more of it, Mom.
In addition to which, my dear, if you have no place in which you could put two young persons into...
Pardon me, they were not two young persons. Two young ladies of the highest respectability.
It is the same thing, my dear.
No, it is not. Pardon me.
I mean, my dear, it is the same thing as to space. If you have no space to put two youthful fellow creatures into, however eminently respectable, which I do not doubt, where are those two youthful fellow creatures to be accommodated?
I have nothing more to say. It is as you think, R.W., not as I do.
Oh, bother the silly game.
Poor Bella.
And poor Lavinia, perhaps, my dear?
No, pardon me. No one else has suffered what Bella has suffered. Being willed to a wealthy, prospective husband, and seeing that husband snatched away from her in circumstances so absurd as the so-called harm and murder. The look at your daughter, Bella, in her black dress, and when you remember the circumstances which have led to her wearing it, then, R.W., say, poor Lavinia.
I don't want to be poured by Pa or anybody.
I'm sure you don't, Lavinia.
You know how poor we are, and what a glimpse of wealth I had, and how it faded away, and how I am here this ridiculous morning, which I hate, the kind of widow that is never married, and you don't feel for me.
My dear, I do.
Yes, you do, but you ought to feel for me, you know, Pa. If only they had left me alone and told me nothing about it, it would have mattered much less. That nasty Mr. Legwood feels it his duty, he says, to write and tell me. And then I'm obliged to get rid of George Sampson.
You never cared for George Sampson, Bella.
And did I say I did, miss? You are a chit and a little idiot. George Sampson was very fond of me. He put up with everything I did to him. It's a shame. It's ridiculous enough having a stranger coming over to marry me, whether he liked it or not. Left him in a will like a dozen of spoons. But all those points have been smoothed away by the money. I love money and want money. I hate to be poor. And we were offensively poor, degradingly poor. The idea of being a kind of widow and never having been married. The idea of being as poor as ever, after all. Going to black, besides, for a man I never saw.
Who is it? Enter.
The servant girl directed me to this room.
Pardon me, R.W. This is the gentleman who has taken your first floor.
Seeing as I am quite satisfied, Mr. Wilfer, with the rooms and with their price, I suppose a payment down will bind the bargain.
Shall I mention, sir, the form of reference?
I think, sir, that a reference is not necessary. Neither, to say the truth, is it convenient, for I am a stranger in London.
Well, money and goods are certainly the best of references.
I think they are the best part.
Among the best, my dear.
R. Wilfer writes a simple memorandum of understanding between himself and his new tenant.
And your name, sir?
John Rokes.
Will you sign as witness, Bella?
Where am I to go, Pa? Here in this corner.
Much obliged to you, Miss Wilfer.
Obliged. For signing my name. Yes, certainly, but I am your landlord's daughter, Mr. Rokesmith.
And so the Wilfers' new tenant, Mr. John Rokesmith, retires, promising to return soon to take up his lodging.
Pa, we've got a murderer for a tenant.
Pa, we've got a robber!
Pa, mark my words, between Mr. Rokesmith and I, there's a natural antipathy and deep distrust, and something will come of it.
My dear girls, between Mr. Rokesmith and me, there is a matter of 8 sovereigns, and something for supper shall come of it. We'll agree upon the article.
R. Wilfer leaves to buy the family the rare treat of a special dinner. But Bella cannot long remain free of the thoughts of her mourning dress, and of being nearly willed away in marriage to John Harmon, whom she had never met, and of the cruel and mysterious way in which she was cheated of the fortune. Not for the first time, she asks her father.
Pa, when old Mr. Harmon made such a fool of me, what do you suppose he did it for?
Impossible to say, my dear. As I have told you, time out of number since the old man's will was brought to light, I doubt I ever exchanged 100 words with the old gentleman.
And I was stamping my foot and screaming when he first took notice of me, was I, Pa?
You're stamping your little foot and screaming with your little voice and laying into me with your little bonnet. All this one Sunday morning when I took you out because I didn't go the exact way that you wanted. When the old man, sitting on a seat nearby, said, "That's a nice girl. That's a very nice girl. That's a promising girl." And so you were, my dear.
And then he asked my name, did he, Pa?
He asked your name, and mine, and on other Sunday mornings when I took you out, we saw him, and really, that's all, my dear.
And that is all of the dinner, too, for this evening. But Bella and Lavinia continue to worry to each other about the desperate character they assume their new tenant to be. Their worry might be even greater tonight if they had met the mysterious Mr. Julius Handford, so long advertised for and sought after concerning the Harmon murder. For if Mr. Julius Handford had a twin brother upon earth, Mr. John Rokesmith is that man.